It's progressive fascism. Because what is fascism? Well, it's the regimentation of the economy, of society, and it's the forced suppression of your opposition. That's what's happening right now. The Democrats have successfully captivated the institutions, pop culture, Hollywood, our education institutions, and now our corporations into their own woke agenda. This is fascism, right? And they use cancel culture as a tool to impose their fascism on us.
This is the latest from Texas Republican Congressman Dan Crenshaw. Crenshaw has a long history of lying, misusing words, or perhaps misunderstanding the meaning of words, and all-around general kind of who gives a shit attitude when it comes to the truth. His latest ride on the Bullshit Express is to completely misrepresent what fascism is in an attempt to play to the Fox News audience so that they can give them their daily fix of fear, anger, and hate. Since Crenshaw clearly has no idea what fascism is, let's explore the definition. Webster's dictionary defines fascism as a political ideology, movement, or regime that exalts nation and often race above the individual and stands for a centralized autocratic government headed by a dictatorial leader, severe economic and social regimentation, and forcible suppression of the opposition. Let's be real. If anybody is steering into the land of fascism, it's the Republican Party. They elected Donald Trump as their leader, the most authoritarian-esque ruler this country has ever seen. In his first week in office, Trump tried to ban all Muslims from entering the country. That is closer to fascism. When white supremacists chanted Jews will not replace us and killed a young woman in Charlottesville, Trump and many in the GOP defended them. That's closer to fascism. Staging a violent insurrection to try and overturn a free and fair election, to overthrow our government, that's closer to fascism. The white supremacists and Christian nationalists that make up the Republican Party today, they are the ones who want fascism. The voter suppression that the Republican Party is currently engaging in by introducing more than 360 bills across the country at the state level and the Republicans in Congress that are actively trying to block voting rights legislation, that's the forcible suppression of the opposition. That's how you get to fascism. They want authoritarian rule. They want to control a country based on their Christian ideology. And they know the only way that they can win is by suppressing the vote, because their ideas are just not popular, and they are losing support. But no, apparently fighting for equality, defending the right to vote, being inclusive, protecting minority rights, that's what Congressman Crenshaw thinks fascism is. This guy is a joke. Democrats want a pluralistic society. We want equality and equity. We want to protect human rights. We want to ensure that everyone who is eligible to vote is able to vote. It's not our fault that businesses, Hollywood, and others are on the side of good, human rights, equality, democracy, and inclusivity. Crenshaw then goes on to talk about cancel culture. Let's talk about cancel culture, and the real insidious cancel culture. Groups like 1 Million Moms that try to cancel anything that's outside of their hateful, bigoted religious beliefs. Groups that they're anti-LGBTQ, anti-mixed race, etc. And while Republicans like Crenshaw rail against cancel culture, they consistently engage in it themselves. They want to cancel members of their own party who don't fall in line behind Trump. They want to cancel corporations who don't fall in line with their repressive agenda. They want to cancel anything and anyone that they think is a threat to their fake white Christian family values. When they elected a man who had 3 wives, cheated on them repeatedly, paid hush money to multiple women, and had a history of sexual assault. Give me a break. It's also worth noting that these corporations that are now speaking out against voter suppression, many of them are funding politicians who are proponents of those same bills just weeks ago. And Republicans have long championed corporations' free speech and rights. Does Citizens United ring a bell? Crenshaw is a perfect example of where the Republican Party is today and what the future of the GOP looks like. Facts don't matter. Shit, basic definitions of words don't even matter anymore. Because apparently you can just call anything the Democrats do fascism or socialism. That's how Republicans get votes. The Republican Party is morally bankrupt, and they're completely out of ideas. They are incapable of developing any real policy solutions, and frankly, they don't even want to govern. So instead, they do what Crenshaw does. Steer headfirst into culture wars, manufacture outrage, blame the Democrats for everything, rail against cancel culture, while trying to cancel everything they possibly can. Let's be honest. If Republicans had their way, the only things that wouldn't be canceled would be gun stores and churches. Republicans know that fear is a great motivator for their people, so they continue to paint everything as us versus them. Democrats are trying to take away all the things you love. They hate you, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, Republicans have done nothing for the working class people they supposedly represent. So here we are with Republican Dan Crenshaw spouting utter BS about fascism while showing no interest in holding his own party leaders accountable for the January 6th insurrection. This man is a perfect representation of the broken GOP, a party that stands for nothing and stands against everything that this country was supposed to represent. It's shameful. And propaganda networks like Fox News, OAN, Newsmax, and others will continue to spread their ridiculous lies to millions of people every night. It's sad to say this, but the Republican Party is now the anti-democracy party in the United States. We must push back against these dangerous lies and even more dangerous political agendas. Because while Trump was defeated, there's many more Republicans like Crenshaw, or Marjorie Taylor Greene, or Madison Cawthorn, or Tom Cotton, or Mike Pompeo who are vying for power. We must stop them.